Hey folks, welcome to the first in a line of videos, Easy Home Brewing, the Lakey Bloke way. This one is turbo cider, folks. We're going to brew up a turbo cider from scratch, okay, and I'm going to take you through the steps I follow whenever I do a batch. We're going to be using a liquid cider yeast, which, as you folks know, I love to use and produces a really beautiful cider. So we'll start from there. We'll create a starter using a WLP775 yeast I've already grown up from a vial, and we'll go from there, and I'll take you through all the steps I use, and at the end we'll do a taste test. But obviously you won't get to see this video for a few weeks because there's going to need to be at least a month gap between the point I bottle it and the point I taste it. But due to the magic of YouTube and some dodgy editing, folks, done by me, yeah, it's got to be dodgy, isn't it? You'll get to see the end result. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. Stick with me. If you haven't already, click subscribe down there, folks. Really appreciate your subscriptions. I've got over 200 people subscribed now, and I'm very happy with that. As you can see, it's a beautiful day in the conservatory. The sun's beating down, a little bit flushed on the skin there. That's probably too much alcohol though, I suspect. So I'm going to be off the alcohol for probably a couple of weeks now. Flush the system out, folks. Give my body a little bit of a rest because I think it needs it. So hopefully I'll feel better for it in a few weeks. Start, drinking loads of water and stuff, and just having a good old clear out. Which is what I do. I probably do it about once a year. Have a little bit of a purge. So hopefully something will happen, but come back and I'll let you know. Yeah, enjoy the video, and I'll see you at the end when we do the taste test. Cheerio, folks. Hope you enjoy. So here we are then. There's our yeast. Now this could be, of course, a dry yeast. In this instance it's a liquid yeast, one I've grown up, 775. We're going to use about 600 millilitres of apple juice. Obviously this has been star sand, folks. As you can see, there's still some star sand in there. The stir bar's got star sand on it. I'm going to spray that with star sand as well. We're using a very small starter because, we're not really growing up this yeast to separate and create other yeasts with. We're going, at the end of the day, we're going to just chuck it into a cider. Now, as you can see on there, there's probably enough yeast in there anyway just to throw straight into the brew. But you know what, I'm just going to grow it up for a while anyway, so I'm going to stick it on there probably, I don't know, maybe 24 hours, no more than that, and I'm just going to let it fluff up, and then we'll chuck that into the top of our apple juice. So here we go with the star sand, folks. We're going to have a spray, and we're going to do the top of the apple juice and also the top of the yeast, because we're going to be pouring out of that. That's already been cleaned, but we'll chuck some more in there anyway. Make sure everything's all sanitised. Don't worry about getting the star sand all over the place, it's not a problem. As you can see, folks, I've decanted most of the old apple juice there, but really I'm just going to want to give that a big old shake, right, because we want to get that yeast off the bottom there and into suspension so that we can pour it on the top of the apple juice. That's alright, that don't look too bad at all. And in goes the apple juice. Now, I did say about 600, didn't I? But I think I'm probably just going to go a bit higher than that. I'm probably going to do about 800, folks, because I'll be honest with you, this particular type of yeast infuses a really nice apple flavour into the brew, and we want to get as much out of that yeast as we can. We want to keep as much appleness in this, because usually with your cider yeasts they tend to dry out and you lose some of that unique apple flavour. But I've found with this 775, that'll do. You don't really get that, So that's the apple juice in there, folks, and now we need to pour on the lovely yeasties. So there we are, that funnel has also been sanitised. In go our lovely yeasties, folks. There they are, they'll be dancing around. At the bottom of this. There's probably, I can probably get a little bit more out. I'll have a little wash around in a second, but the important thing is, folks, is that we get this stir plate on, so I'll switch that on there, and we watch those yeasties have a little bit of a dance. There they go. And of course we want to take this off and put our sanitized foil over the top. Whoops, it's quite difficult doing this with one hand. There we go. And we'll leave that 24 hours, and then we'll come back and we'll chuck that into our brew. Easy, innit? An idiot can do this. Oh bugger, an idiot is doing it. Hello folks. Now, you're probably asking yourself, Roy, what if I haven't got a stir plate? You don't need one, right? They're just really handy, and you get more yeast if you have a stir plate. But if you don't have a stir plate, come closer. All you got to do, every time you walk past your vial, just give it a little stir in your hand like that. Obviously don't take the foil off and that, just shake it in your hand and put it back down again. You'll still get yeasties, okay? Because obviously the yeast is like the CO2, so you just want to give it a little shake every time you walk past it. Put it somewhere, you know, where it's going to be at room temperature, and also where you're going to walk past it a lot, and then just go like that, give it a little shake. Tip of the day, folks. So here we are then, folks, the following morning. As you can see, there's been some activity during the night, but as the top of this has been sprayed with Star San, and you know, we have got this on the top, nothing's escaped. It's just basically a load of foam, and maybe we could have used a slightly bigger flask, but I'm not too concerned, to be honest with you, because we don't want to go mad. I mean, you know, we did really have enough yeast, I think, to do a batch anyway. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch this down so you can see the yeasties stop, and eventually they're all going to go whee and settle to the bottom there, just so you can see the difference between the liquid yeast and the dry yeast. Look at that. Now they're all settling at the bottom there. Now I know there's going to be enough yeasties in there, so I'm just going to leave that there for a second. Now here's our bucket. It's been sanitized. I've sprayed it with Star San. I've given it a good old clean, as you can see on there. That's been sprayed with Star San as well. Don't fear the foam, folks. On the floor here we've got my feet plus 2 crates of 4 litres of apple juice, and 1 litre we used yesterday, remember, to do the starter, and 3 others there. So we're going to get about 12 litres out of this, I think, and that's fine, isn't it? That's enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pouring the apple juice in, and we'll go from there. So these are the apple juices. The tops of these apple juices, you want to just quickly spray them with Star San, just to get rid of some of the nasties. I've got a knife here, and what I'm going to do, that's also been sprayed with Star San, is when I'm pouring the juice into the bucket, we stab a hole in the bottom, and that'll let the air flow through the vessel, in this case the cardboard, litre of cardboard apple juice, and it'll come out a lot quicker and into our bucket. Alright, so here we go then, folks. Yeah. Now I'm just going to chuck this one in as normal, and the next one I'll quickly stab a hole in the bottom there as I'm pouring it, and it'll come out a lot quicker. So I'm just going to chuck about 3 or 4 of these in, and then we'll chuck the yeast in, and then we'll pour the rest of the apple juice over the top. So here we are then, folks. There's 4 litres of apple juice in there. I think that's enough, to be honest with you, before we chuck the yeast in. So what we need to do now is we need to take the yeast off of the stir plate. Remember, there's a magnetic stir bar in there, so we need to get that out. So I don't know if I can do that here. There we go. See it there? Look. We just bring that to the top and we take it out. Oh, second time lucky, folks. Ah, damn it, there it is. There we go. Take that out. And then, because we want to get all the yeasties out, we give that a little stir. Give it a shake, give it a shake. Get all those yeasties into suspension. There we go, look. Pour it in. There we go, all the yeasties are in there. Now, what you could have done is you could have decanted some of that juice, but as it's only a day old, no need to do that really. Plus, you know, it's a choice thing, I guess. Some people like to decant the apple juice and some people don't. I prefer to just chuck it all in and let it go because it's only got fresh, new young yeasties in there anyway. So now we're going to chuck the rest of the apple juice all over the top. Just a quick one folks. Now obviously I said earlier about this knife and putting a hole in there as you're pouring it, and I'm just going to show you what I mean, right? So if we pour the juice in as normal, like that, you stab a hole in the top. Can you see the flow there? It's a lot different. It comes out really quickly. And we just need to give it a little squeeze, boom. And it's done. Otherwise it'll be a lot slower, folks. Right, so as I said, we've got about 12 litres there and we're just about done. Now, normally at this point, what you would do is chuck in some yeast nutrient. But off camera, you didn't see me yesterday. I'm just going to put this lid on. You didn't see me yesterday. Make sure it's clipped in. Off camera, I put some yeast nutrient into the vial when it was on the stir plate. So I'm not too concerned because I've made sure that I've got the best yield out of my yeast. While it was stirring away on the stir plate, I put about 1/8 of a teaspoon of yeast nutrient in there, and you know, you saw for yourself with your own eyes the yeast is dancing around in here. Ta-da! There were blooming loads of them, so I don't really need to worry about it too much. So that's it, folks. All I need to do now is put on the airlock and we're done. There's our airlock, folks, and just so we know we've got a good seal on it, if we push that, you should see that bubble, yeah? That's how we know it's absolutely fine and we've got a decent seal on. This lid is as tight as it can go. I can't really clamp it down anymore. And there it is. We'll leave that to sit on the top and the side of the kitchen here for 7 days. And I'll come back probably in another 2 days. And what we should see is about that much foam in here. We should see some activity, so we'll know that stuff is happening. Now, I haven't taken a starting gravity because I know by doing so many of these apple juices that an SG without any additional sugar is about 1040, 1041, which is exactly what we want it to be. I don't really like strong ciders, folks. 4.5 to 5% is absolutely fine. So I'm happy with this. Don't need to touch it, don't need to do any more to it. We're just going for a normal bog standard plain cider. Alright? So here we are then, folks. I don't know if you can see, but it looks like the foamage has gone all the way up. Oh dear. To the 4 gallon mark, as you can see. So I've had a serious amount of fermentation taking place. Now the WLP775 yeast is a bit of a busy beastie, and you will need a lot of headroom in your fermenting vessel. How's this doing? It's still bubbling a little bit, not too bad. There's the odd bubble every minute or so. There we go, there's a little bit there. But we are on day 5 now, I think, so got to come back in a couple of days and we're going to bottle it. Hey folks, it's bottling day. Now, what we've got here is our secondary vessel. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically make sure this is nice and clean. At the moment, in there, as you can see, we've got some bottles in some sanitised water. So that's got some Milton tablets in there. I find this is a really good way of saving time, just chucking the bottles in there, because this secondary bucket needs to be clean anyway. So while I've got the clean water in there, the sanitised water, we chuck the bottles in there, leave them for 15 minutes, drain them out, and then once we've finished doing all the bottles, we then put some sugar in there and siphon off the cider over the top of the sugar, and then we bottle it. Hey guys, here we are. Now I've just measured out 108 grams of sugar, there or thereabouts. I was heading for 110, but it doesn't really matter being out by a couple of grams. Now the reason I've measured 108 grams out is because we use 5 grams of sugar per 500 milliliter bottle. Now in the fermenting vessel we've got 11 litres. If we times that by 2, because we can get 2 bottles per litre, we get 22. 22 times 5 grams per bottle, remember, gives us 110, there or thereabouts. So this is fine. I'm just going to put some 100 millilitres of water in there. We're going to put that on the stove and we're going to melt it, and we're going to chuck it into our clean vessel. So here we are then, chaps. 100 millilitres of water in there, along with the 110 grams of sugar. Now all I'm going to do is melt the sugar. I'm not going to boil this. We don't want it boiled because we don't want to be putting boiled water into a clean vessel and then chucking cider over the top of it. So we just want to melt this sugar up. So we'll do that, and then we'll chuck it into our clean vessel. Right, so there we are then folks. As you can see, there's a bit of steam coming off there. That will do. We just want to make sure that we've got rid of all the sugary lumps. We'll pour that into our sanitised secondary vessel there. There we go. Oh, steam coming off that. We're just trying to make sure that we get rid of any nasties, and also that the bulk of the sugar has been diluted. So it's all good folks. Now we're ready to siphon off the cider on the top of the sugar. Okay, so there's our vessel on the floor with the sugar in. There's our cider at the top. Let me just show you the inside there. It's really clear, beautiful colour, really nice. It smells like hot dogs folks, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in the video. I think I may have done. That's how you know it's a good brew. It smells like hot dogs. So what we're going to do is going to come down here and we're going to take our siphon, put it, rest it into the bucket there, and what we want to do is we want to create a circle like that when it pours in, like a little tornado type thing, so that it mixes up with the sugar. And if I just pump this like so, we'll kick the flow off. Here we go, there it comes in, and you'll be able to see what I mean. Let's do another quick pump on there. There we go, it's coming. So we get like a little kind of circular motion in there, and that's good because it will be mixing up with all the sugar as it pours over the top. Good stuff, isn't it? Now I wanted to show you this. Obviously we need to keep as much of this mulch at the bottom in the first vessel as we can, the primary vessel. That is basically all yeast folks, so you've got a choice here. You can either save that yeast, siphon it off into a clean vessel and put it into the fridge and then wash it and clean it and then use it again later on. However, I'm just going to chuck it away because I've got so much of this yeast lying around, it's pointless me saving another batch. Also, what you could do is, if you've got some apple juice lying around, you just chuck that over the top of this and then it will all kick off again. Yeah, it's all good, isn't it? Now folks, here we are. Here's our secondary vessel, off the floor onto the table now. We're going to have some fun here because I thought I had a little bottling tube that fit this particular tap, but sadly I don't, so we're going to have to manage without it. Here we are then guys. Now obviously what we've got to do is we've just got to lift up our bottle there, turn the tap on and let the juice fill the bottle. I know this isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but it's what we have to do, folks. You don't want the tap on too much, because what will happen is you get oxidation in your cider. We don't really want that. But there we go, we've done one bottle. Now I'm not going to do any more than that, folks. I'm just going to do one bottle, and what we'll do is we'll just tip that up, give it a little bit of a shaky up and down kind of thing, and that's it. One bottle done. On to the next. Another tip of the day, folks, whenever you're bottling, make sure you've got a tea towel on the floor. Yeah, especially if you're doing it in the kitchen. You're going to get you're going to get messy, especially if you haven't got a little bottler handy. I'm trying to fill up the big 750ml glass bottles, and it's proven a little bit tricky, so I've had to put down this tea towel. But you know, you should have one down anyway, because you always get a little bit of drippage when you're filling up bottles. Alright?
Hello you beautiful people, how are you? Hope you've enjoyed this this video, folks. I've tried to keep it as educational as I can. I know it's a long one, I apologise for that, but you know me, I like to do long ones rather than short ones. While we're talking about long ones, here's a long one. Now, this is a WLP775 cider, folks. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but inside the bottle there are some little dots here. Don't worry about that too much, that's got nothing to do with the cider itself, it's just the way it's clung to the side of the bottle. And as I've said before on these Homebrew Wednesday videos, the see-through plastic PET bottles aren't always great to use over and over and over and over and over and over and over again before you chuck them and start using glass bottles. But I'm going to do that. Honestly, I'm going to replace all these with glass bottles. So it looks okay in the bottle, doesn't it? It's nice and clear. And I've got a Spiegelau glass here. Now obviously the Spiegelau glass is primarily used for beer, but in this instance we're going to do a cider. So here we go, let's open it up, see how it's carbonated. Nice carbonation on there, folks. There we go, there's some bubbles, that's what we like to see. Let's give it a pour. When we give it a pour, we need to try and keep the sediment at the bottom of the bottle, remember. Let's bring that down a little bit so you can see it. Now if you keep your ciders in the fridge for a while, what you'll find is the sediment tends to stick to the bottom of the bottle, as it has in this instance. It's been pretty good. If you've got any sediment, that is. Here we go, folks, there's the finished product. Isn't that beautiful? Crystal clear, you can see me through it. Hello! Isn't that a beautiful cider, folks? Now that, for me, is perfect. The colour is crystal clear. It's a beautiful golden colour. It looks like a strongbow, in fact, doesn't it? You know, you expect that sort of colour from a sort of a strongbow, really. That sort of cider, or maybe even a sort of old Englishy type cider. But what about the smell, folks? Well, instantly I'm hit in the face with a smack of apple. Now, if I didn't use the WLP775, and the reason I know this, folks, is because I've done enough of these to be able to tell you this. If I didn't use the WLP775, I wouldn't be getting that hit of apple. Honestly, the 775 inhibits any sort of nasty sharpness, but also it produces a really nice apple profile into your cider. It's got some sort of appleness within the yeast itself. I don't know what it is. It's a fabulous yeast. I can't go on about it enough. I really can't. Yeah, that just smells beautiful. That smells better than a strongbow. Now, if you smell a strongbow, the strongbow doesn't really smell of anything. You can't smell. It certainly can't smell any apples in there. But this smells of apples. Really crisp apples. It smells beautiful. And remember, all that's got in here is apple juice. That's all it is, Waitrose apple juice. I use Waitrose apple juice because out of all of the juices I've tried, I like the colour and the profile of the Waitrose apple juice. It gives this beautiful golden colour. Not all the apple juices have the same colour, folks. You'll find that when you do it yourself, even if you're using dry yeasts, yeah? You'll find if you try the cheap and cheerful apple juices from the supermarkets, each one of them will provide its own colour, its own profile. But this one I really, really do like, the Waitrose apple juice. And I don't work for Waitrose, right? I'm just telling you, I've done Sainsbury's, I've done Tesco's, I've done Asda's. I've been around the block, folks. I've been here a long time doing this. I've been doing this for 2 years now. And I've tried every possible conceivable apple juice from all of the leading supermarkets, including Lidl and Aldi as well. We don't want to leave those fellas out. But for whatever reason, for me, and again, this is a personal preference, guys, for me, this is a beautiful colour. The Waitrose produces a beautiful colour, and I really, really like that. Already, I just want to drink it. So let's dive in. You know what? That's perfect in every way. Bearing in mind, and I keep saying this, all that's gone into this is yeast. I've not put any additional sugars in. The yeast has done its work on just the sugars that are in the juice. Now this produces a cider anywhere sort of between, depending on the juice you use, 4.5% to 5%, which is fine for me. Doesn't need to be any higher than that, folks. You can go mad and you can produce yourself a 10% cider, but you know what? You're going to lose some of that unique apple profile because the alcohol is just going to hit you in the face and you won't be able to taste the apple in there at all. The yeast in this brings out the apple flavour, and it really is a beautiful drink. I prefer this over a Strongbow or any other bottled cider, folks. I don't buy cider anymore. In fact, I can't remember the last time I had a cider from a supermarket. Probably when I was doing the reviews over Christmas. So that's what, 6 months ago? I won't be doing the 12 ciders of Christmas this year. I'll be doing the 12 home brews of Christmas. But I'll be including lots of these. Now, start small, folks, yeah? Your first batch, do a very small batch, do maybe 4.5, 5 litres. Don't go mad. If you're gonna do a batch, make sure you keep it small, because if it turns out to not be very good, you're going to be chucking away an awful amount of cider. You don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be doing that. So get it right. Use a demijohn. It's not difficult, folks. Really, this is as easy as I've shown you in this video. It really is simple. Yeah. Chuck your apple juice in. Get yourself some yeast, liquid yeast, and I promise you, hand on my heart, as soon as you've tried a cider made with WLP775, those dry yeasts, you're going to chuck them away. I promise you, you're going to chuck them in the bin. You won't be using them again, because this is an amazing drink, and I can't really big it up enough, folks. Look, you can see for yourself, the profile is just amazing. It's crystal clear. There's the right amount of carbonation in there. It tastes beautiful. I can taste appleness. It just makes me happy. As soon as it hits my cheeks, all I can taste is apple goodness. Now, I'm not getting that sharp turbo cider hit that you get when you use a dry cider. There's no getting over that, folks. What you have to do usually is back sweeten it with Splenda or some other sort of fake sugar. Yeah, obviously you're not going to use fermentable sugars, because the yeast is just going to eat all that up and you're going to end up with a higher percentage alcohol cider. You don't really want that. This yeast is a wonder yeast. It gets rid of that turbo cider twang. You don't get that twang at all. It's completely gone. The sharpness isn't there. You just get really not sweet. I would say it's a medium cider. The WLP775 produces a medium cider. I'm fairly confident that I can say this is a medium cider. Yeah, it's not too sweet, it's not too dry. But the best thing about it is the smoothness. It's so smooth. It's just a beautiful drink, folks. So I really do encourage you guys to go out, get yourself a 775 yeast, White Labs. You can buy it from brewuk.co.uk. There are other websites that provide them. I think maltmiller.co.uk, themaltmiller.co.uk may have them. They certainly sell other White Labs yeasts. Get yourself a vial. Don't, whatever you do, as soon as you get that vial, don't chuck it into a turbo cider. You don't want to do that. You want to grow it up. As I've shown you in a previous Homebrew Wednesday video, get your vial, stick it on a stir plate. If you haven't got a stir plate, doesn't matter. Just get yourself a flask, stick it in there, put some apple juice in there, grow it up, separate it into separate flasks, and away you go. You will get, I think I'm on my 6th iteration now from a single vial. And when I say iteration, I mean batch. So a single batch will produce between 5 and 6 separate vials, or in this case I've been using 250 ml Kilner jars, and what I tend to do is pour off the excess before I pour the yeast and create into a flask and create a new starter with that. So 6 is a 36, folks. So I've had 36 batches of cider out of a single vial. I know they're expensive, folks. I know they're expensive. Postage and packaging including on these internet websites. You're generally talking about £10 for the yeast and the postage and packaging. But 36 into 10 pays for itself, doesn't it, folks? Pays for itself. Honestly. Honestly. Get yourself a stir plate as well if you can. If not, build one. They're not that difficult. Or if you know someone who builds them, get them to do it for you. Cheers, Gaz. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. As I say, this is a beautiful product. It's just amazing. I can't honestly, I'm blown away by how lovely it is. This is what happens. This is what you get at the end. If you love cider, this will be, I promise you, this will be what you're looking for. It's an amazing product, crystal clear, tastes like heaven. The apple just smacks you in the face. There is a crispness in there, there's a sweetness in there, not too much sweetness. It's very smooth, and it knocks any supermarket cider on its head. It's brilliant, and it's very cheap. Now, to make this, I think I used 4 cartons of apple juice from Waitrose, costs £3.60. Depending on the size of your batch, obviously the more you make, the more you're going to save. Obviously, well, it'll be more expensive because you need to buy more apple juice, but I'm talking about your yeast specifically. A single batch of yeast can easily do a 5 gallon, easily, as long as you create yourself a starter. Okay, so just bear that in mind, folks. Follow all my hints and tips. Yeah, I wouldn't lie to you. Everything I've said here has come out of my own findings. If I genuinely, if I thought this tasted like crap, I would tell you, I'd say, look, don't fucking bother, because it's not worth it. Stick to your dry yeast. But I'm only sorry that I spent so much time. I spent probably about a year, 14 months, something like that, using different types of dry yeast before I fell upon the 775, and there's no going back. You can get similar results, folks, if you grow up the old rosy yeast from the Weston's old rosy bottles. It's a little bit hit and miss, that though, folks. Some people have had a lot of luck with growing up the old rosy yeast from the bottles. You need to buy 3 or 4 bottles, drink the contents, and then leave a little bit at the bottom of each bottle and use 4 of those to create a single starter. I've had not very much luck doing that myself, and for the sake of a few pounds initial upfront cost and a product as good as this, I've got no real reason to try the old rosy, to be honest. But give it a go, folks. This is what it's all about, isn't it? It's all about experimentation. You know what you like, okay? You don't have to listen to me. You really don't, and I fully appreciate that. All I can do is really give you the benefit of my experience, such as it is. And I will never ever, I promise you, I'll never ever be going back to dry yeast. Never. Because as long as I can produce something as good as this, I've got no real reason to do that. I really haven't. Oh, I'm getting more dammy than I am in my gob. Oh man, that's so good. Now, what you want to do with your ciders, folks, is stick them in the fridge at least 24 hours before you're going to drink them. Allow them to settle. And once you pour them into your glass and you taste them and they're ice cold, oh man, they're just so good. Cider's ice cold. You can't beat it, folks, can you? That's all from me then. Hope you've enjoyed this video, folks, and you've found it useful. You've got something out of it. Even if, you know, you've been thinking about doing growing up your own yeast, it doesn't have to be liquid yeast, it could be dry yeast. I know the producers and the makers of these dry yeasts try to encourage us not to grow them up and cultivate them, but as long as you've used a batch of dry yeast in a fermenting vessel, what's left in that fermenting vessel, I can't even talk now, I'm so drunk with this. Oh, no, I'm not, it's fine. What's left in that fermenting vessel at the bottom, you can scoop that out and you can grow that up. It's not a problem. You can do that, folks. So you don't need to be spending loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of money buying yeast all the time. Keep using it. Grow it up and make starters though. Because if you just pour your beer or cider over the top of a yeast cake, you can only do that about 2 or 3 times before you need to think about washing. And you could get infection and stuff. But again, don't take my word for it, do it yourself. You'll find out, folks. You'll find out yourself, and then you go, you know what, Word was right about that. Well, I tried that, and I did get fucking infected. It's just, you know, I appreciate that completely, folks. So, I'll see you on the next one, guys. Don't know what's coming next time around, but, you know, I know you'll be there, and I know you'll enjoy it. So, stay tuned, and I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da, folks.